2 pounds of pinto beans soaked overnight. Just gave it a fresh change of water and some bay leaves, and it's ready to, in this pot, ready to put on the fire, get it started cooking. My big 3-gallon pot, I'm gonna give it some liquids outside of vinegar. So it's supposed to be about 2/3, a little over, of vinegars, some lime juice, what do you call it? So I got like almost 5 pounds of pork. I'm gonna give it that much. This was a full bottle. But let's say about 10 tablespoons of the lime juice. This is gonna be some Tex-Mex pork and beans. Tex-Mex pork and beans. I'm kind of doing like a marinade brine right there. I'm gonna add my seasonings to it. So that's my Tex-Mex seasoning. What I'm gonna go with, just barely fits in like a jelly jar, one of the small jars, half pints maybe. So I'm gonna give this a shake. Looking good, looking good. I'm gonna put half of this in with my liquids to make the marinade. So this is the pork. So if I haven't said, this is a Tex-Mex pork and beans. 4.2 pounds. Wow, 420. Look at that. Maybe I'll put some morning glory seeds in there. You never know. Big piece of pork though. 2 pounds of dry beans, but that'll end up being, close to 10 pounds, 10 or 11 pounds of, I don't know, it'll be like about 10 pounds of beans. It'll probably double this, so it's like for every pound of meat, there's 2 pounds of, reconstituted cooked beans, Good mix. So I'm going to dice this up into little cubes, and then put it in my brine. So it's been marinating. This is the diced pork. Not a proper marinade yet. Won't be, but maybe like 30-40 minutes or so far. Kind of turned it a nice tan color. Really smell the acids. Marinating while I peeled some garlic, onion, and cleaned up like the knife and things. Did some dishes. So now I'm going to dice up the vegetables and add the vegetables to the meats. That's 1 poblano, 3 serrano, 3 onion, and like 1.5 garlics. And give it some more salt as well. So I'm going to dice these up, add them to that. I'm not going to use the seeds. I'm going to de-seed and to sprinkle the seeds around the flower beds. Maybe get lucky. Probably won't, but you never know. So get that going. So as I was chopping up the onions and such, I would stir them in, kind of coating it with the marinade. I gave it a plateful of goji berries. Cool thing about goji berries is they're already bite-sized. You know, you don't need to chop them. I'll mix that in. So right now it's still mostly acid. The vinegar and the lime juice. So I'm going to give it some tomatoes. It's Italian. It's got basil, garlic, oregano. Something with peppers would be better, but this is what I had sitting around. I forgot to pick up. So this could use a can of chipotle peppers and adobo sauce, but I forgot to grab those. This is nice for pasta. Still pretty good for this. It's got some nice garlic and oregano, but don't really need the basil for this, but otherwise this is good, you know. So I'm just going to mix this in and bring this outside so it can meet the beans, the other half of the goodness. So so the beans soaked overnight, and this morning gave it some fresh water in this pot where it's like 3 inches of beans, 4 inches deep, 10 inches wide. I gave it, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch of extra water over top of those soaked beans this morning to cook them in. While I was doing my meats, they were just burning out here on 3 logs, 3/4 logs. And it almost looked like it maybe did a boil over. There was a piece of bay leaf that was... I'm just pulling out my bay leaves. There's a lot of broken chunks going on. Yeah, there's a piece of bay leaf, like maybe some of the water boiled over. Nice and soft. Ready to eat as is. Wow, they're fully cooked. Actually, probably gonna get a little bit of mushiness. Took a bit longer than expected to do up the meats. I'm gonna transfer the beans into the meats. Put it on the fire for a little bit, just to bring everything back to a boil, a simmer, and then go from there. There's the baby deer over there, coming in for some snacks. Hey, Mr. Man. I'm gonna bring it back to a boil and then can it. Just wanna get it boiling to kill anything that's on the surface. Yeah, so I'm gonna do this transfer. It's a two-handed process. All mixed together. So I want to cover it with some syrup. I want to make some syrup to cover it. So I'm giving it some water. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. About 4 cups of water right there. So to turn that water into beef bouillon, I'm gonna give this a shake to break up the chunks. Give it like 4 teaspoons. 1, 2, 3-ish. Come on. Put this big chunk in there. Okay, there's 3. Okay, that's 4. So I'm gonna mix this up. Rekindle the fires. A few little things, you know, it's making a little heat. If I got some bark, I'm gonna split those. I'll use some of the bark to get these going. Bring it back to a boil and then get ready for canning. After mixing it in, it's gonna need more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna do 5 more cups. And then 5 more things of bouillon. Ooh. Oh no. So this is ready to come off the heat. Put the pressure canner on. Got a little bit of water in there. A little bottom rack. A little bit of water. Get that water heated up. While I do stuff with this. Whew. Give it some salt. It's a big pot, so it takes a lot of salt. I haven't salted anything yet. And there's just a little bit of salt. And ooh, that reminds me, I didn't give this any lard either. This is the only lard in this is the lard that was actually on the pork. This is the other half of that Tex-Mex seasoning mix. Dab or 2. Start off with that, see how it does. So I wanted some of the seasoning in there so that the marinade wasn't just acids, it had some flavor to it. I didn't want to boil off all the flavor out of the seasonings, cook out all the flavor. Just kind of putting them in now at the end of the cooking. Before the canning, you know, they're still gonna lose some of that flavors in the canning process, but hopefully not too much. Found a bay leaf I missed. I'm liking the flavor. It's right there. I should probably not do anything to it. Seems there's nothing wrong with it, but that means just give it a little bit more salt just to be on the safe side. Might as well, but not much. Now this has some kick to it. The cayenne and the seasoning. Still got this much left. Fair amount of seasoning, but you know, that's a lot of food right there. So this is probably going to be 2 batches in the canner. This particular one will hold 8 wide mouth pint jars, which is what I'm using. I'm thinking this would be close to 16, you know, so it's going to be 1 full batch and a partial second batch, you know. But I'm going to go ahead and pop this in jars and get this loaded up. So there's a little bit of water in there. Once I put in my jars, I'm going to add a little more water to cover the jars with water. This is my first time water bath canning. Official water bath canning, but after you lose a bunch of beans to the molds, it's kind of like sunny out today, but you never know. So there's these 4 are the last 4 of my Creole beans. So I had 4 or 5 of them before the mold took, and all the rest were moldy. These 4 I think are okay. I haven't opened them yet. You know, they've been in here and it's like 200 degrees in there. Didn't even bother with the mirrors. It's been kind of windy, so, and the solar canning season's over for me, you know. I just got those kind of heating in there, you know. So if they did get moldy, the mold was killed soon enough, you know. I'm going to pop those open, though, and put those in the second batch of that, you know, if I got room for the 4. You know, I may do up some corn salsa and those, you know. It's kind of a food day today, making food. Got materials being delivered tomorrow for the roof. So it'll be constructions, you know. And it's getting close to fall. You know, the leaves are showing it, but just the heat and dryness wise, it's not showing yet that it's fall. Still summer heat and dryness. Yeah, after losing, I don't know, 12 cans, 12 jars of food, something like that, to the mold, it's kind of a good time just to call it done for the solar canning season. And this is actually government recommended. It's kind of crazy doing something government recommended, like for canning meat. Government, you know, the only way the government recommends that you can meat is in a pressure canner, because you can get it up high enough heat, you know, 240, 260, whatever degrees, you know. Bad thing about doing it this way is, you know, the meat cans at a different time and pressure and temperature than the beans, than the onions, than the tomatoes. So it's kind of you know, it's not going to be a perfect cook on every ingredient, but I don't really care about that, you know. This is Tex-Mex pork and beans, actual store-bought, like Van de Kamp's pork and beans. That's nasty, you know. It's like, that's like end times food right there, you know. It's kind of, if you don't have seasonings and ingredients, you just end up with beans and pork, and that's it, you know. And it's good end times food, you know, but, you know, it doesn't taste good. This actually tastes good. Even if it's not each ingredient cooked perfectly, as a whole, it's great flavor. You know, all of these kind of bean dishes I do, you know, it's not like making each ingredient perfect. You know, that's just a hassle. This is doable. You know, and it tastes good. You know, it doesn't. The only bean, store-bought bean that I like more is the brown sugar hickory flavor of bean. Store-bought, you know, that I like as much as my beans. You know, that's the only flavor out of all the store beans that I like equal to the beans I do. And that's kind of like a dessert bean right there. And, you know, my dessert beans are better than that dessert bean, I think. Even though I usually grind my beans into puddings, custards, but I mean flavor-wise. Anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and pop these in some jars. This will be 8-pint jars. I'm going to bring it in for that. Put it in some 8-pint jars and then bring them out here and load up the canner. That should be boiling real good by then. Trippy sound. Steady cadence that it's got. It never really changes. Well, it's pretty stable temperature. It's just like a slow simmer on those logs going. This is at 10 pounds. Could be 5 pounds, 10 pounds, or 15 pounds by adding 1 or 2 weights to the pressure thing. It's been about 75 minutes. That's what the instructions for the canner calls for like partially cooked meat, 75 minutes at 10 pounds, which is kind of like what it calls for a lot of stuff. So it should be good. I'm gonna pull this off using my gloves. Oh, and I got that thing. Using that thing to pull the jars out, put the jars in there, and then those ones are the next 8. So, yeah, I've already had, I filled up, I don't know, maybe a bowl and a half of the beans, and I still got probably about another 3/4 of a bowl left. And I got another can that I'm going to have, you know, tomorrow. I'm not going to bother pressure canning it since I'm just going to be eating it tomorrow. And then these 16, this will be 16 cans for kind of long-term use. Well, all of my canning is just for a few months. I'm not canning these things to last years, you know. Like the enzymes and things going on in there, it would probably get a little freaky, you know, and all my different can things, mixing so many different things. It really, you can't really do long-term, year-long, you know, like saving them for years, when you're mixing different things together like that, because they, so you got bacterias, enzymes, and chemicals, you know, bacteria, viruses, enzymes, and chemicals that break food down. And this gets rid of the bacteria, viruses, and it might get rid of some enzymes, you know, like some chemicals and enzymes might break down, but there's still going to be chemicals and enzymes in there, you know. This isn't going to get rid of all of them. It'll get rid of all the viruses and bacteria. But, you know, it's still going to get a little funky after a while. But this is just for a few months, you know. These, it's kind of like ready to eat, you know. It's a filling / healthy-ish kind of meal, you know, like store-bought can of chili or a store-bought can of spaghetti. It was alright, it's good, but, you know, doing chili and spaghetti and macaroni and beef, you know, Chef Boyardee's for a week solid, it starts to get to be a bit much, you know. And that's what these are for, to mix in there, you know. So it's chili this day, and it's this that day, and then there's something else the other day, you know. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and swap out these things, get those going, and probably give it another quarter of a log. You know, that's going good, but I don't think it's gonna last 75 minutes. So I got some baby boils going on, starting to pop down. Got the second batch in there. 8 of these. Freezer safe pint jars, wide mouth, 12 to 16 ounces. Very nice. So, gave it a third log, kind of right in the middle. Get it locked up. Put the thing back on, and check on it again in 75 minutes. Jar of beans. Shook it up to give it a proper mix. So, the 1 cup mark right there. I'm going to see if I got 1 cup of water in this jug. Okay. Beans are a little watery, making that syrup, so I'm going to go a little under 1 cup. That's like 7/8 of a cup. I kind of got the cleaning process started on the jar. So I'm going to bring this to a boil. Little stick fire. Smoke in the eyes. So between the vinegar and lime juice and the marinade, and then the Tajin and the seasoning, the Tajin's got a strong lime flavor. I was going for lime, making it more of like a Baja kinda, but it's too much lime for me, too much acid. So I'm gonna cut it. This is the last bit of that Tex-Mex seasoning, with some taco seasoning added. Give it a bit more of just a standard taco flavor. And this is some instant rice. This is 2 1/4 cups. And I want about a cup left. That's just over a cup. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's give it a spritz more. Stir. So there's like minute rice, and then there's instant rice, and then there's regular rice. Regular rice is a bit too hard to cook. But gotta monitor it for a while, so it's kind of a hassle. Can't cook rice in the solar oven. It doesn't get hot enough. So that's mixed in good. Much nicer. Minute rice. Get some boiling water. In this case, water and beans, and then you add the rice. Then you just let it sit for 5-10 minutes. And kind of basically cool down a little because it's too hot when it's boiling hot. So by the time it's cooled down, it's ready to eat. Rehydrated all the way through. Give it a corn chips. So it's kind of like a taco shell, but better. And it's like, think 9 cents an ounce or something. Incredible price. Oh wow. Well, this is going to be a cheesy bit right here. A big chunk of cheese came out. Now, trying to put the cheese one-handed, not a good idea. I'm going to clean this up a little. And then the goodness. It's been a minute. This is like two meals worth. I'm gonna do half. That looks good. And then have that last half later. So I'm going to give this a mix. This is got some down the wrong tube. Incredible on its own. A little bit of cheddar on that bean right there. Just kind of all over the place. It's really... So, I mean, kind of like added too much acids, you know, in that marinade and all that. But you can't really add too much of something. You just add more of other stuff, you know, so tone it down with more seasoning, acid-free seasoning. The Fritos, you know, instead of doing like a cilantro lime rice, just went with a plain rice. And as is, it's really good. But making it more like a true taco salad. Well, I'm gonna give it some lettuce and some ranch. Eat it that way. That's like a beautiful meal right there. From a can, you know. You know, it's kind of, still got all those cans. Very nice. Hardly stay awake. Sprawled out on the log. Little baby fence lizard.